Welcome to another edition of Amplify Your Business. Today, we're going to be talking about getting your business digital. And so I have two guests with me today, Heather Thompson from the University of Alberta's School of Retailing. Hi, Heather.
Good morning.
And we also have Jessica Roth from the Leduc, Nisku, and Wetaskiwin Regional Chamber. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
So thank you both so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and chat with me about what you're doing in your respective organizations to help businesses get online, get their businesses transitioned into this digital economy that we have been all thrust into since the beginning of COVID. I'd like to start with Heather. Heather, you started this program here in Edmonton called Making Edmonton Digital. Can you tell me a little bit about that program?
Sure. So the Making Edmonton Digital program started about almost a year ago, so about 11 months. And this is something that has been in the work probably since, the very beginning of the pandemic. And at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was actually on a maternity leave. And every morning, apart from all the health concerns that we were hearing, we were also hearing about how the pandemic has impacted so many businesses.
Yeah.
And within the School of Retailing at the University of Alberta, we have a student consulting group. And so I thought that there was a really cool alignment here and a great opportunity for students to do what they can to use their digital savvy that some of them have just intrinsically learned. It's really interesting how many of them have this skill set without ever taking some sort of formal training necessarily for it. And so I was able to connect with a colleague of mine who works at the City of Edmonton who runs the Corner Store program. Braden Reed. So Braden has been in talks with Digital Main Street from Toronto for years and has always wanted this sort of platform and support system for Edmonton businesses long before the pandemic. And if anyone isn't familiar with the Digital Main Street program, so like I said, it was based in Toronto. It started back in 2014. And Chris, who actually ended up founding Digital Main Street, he was working for the City of Toronto. And he noticed that a lot of the businesses that were going out of business on a typical Main Street district were the ones that didn't have a digital presence. And so I think when people might hear Digital Main Street, they might think, oh, it's a conversion. It's a new sort of Main Street platform that is in a digital virtual setting, and that's not the case. And so the whole point of Digital Main Street is to help businesses create a digital presence so they can stay in a physical capacity, because it isn't one or the other. Businesses are definitely needing to do both. And I think that's something that the pandemic has shown us in fast forward. I think that was something we were probably going to see by the year 2025, perhaps, but we saw that shift almost overnight. And so the Making Edmonton Digital program was a partnership with the City of Edmonton, the University of Alberta, and we were able to use the Digital Main Street platform. And so students were able to spend about 10 to 12 hours per business roughly, and they were able to help businesses work on anything that would enhance or create a digital presence. Believe it or not, there were a lot of businesses we worked with that actually just didn't even have a Google profile. And we learned this from the pandemic. If you don't exist on Google, you don't exist, because that foot traffic just wasn't there.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see how many businesses needed the help. But what was also interesting was that there was a lot of businesses that didn't actually come sign up for our program right away, which the people at Digital Main Street warned me about. They said, you're going to have to do a lot of marketing for this program. And I thought, well, this program is so cool and it's free. Like, what do you mean? And so sure enough,
everybody's going to be lined up, right? Of course,
exactly.
They're going to take advantage of it. Yeah.
Beat them off with a stick.
Yeah.
That was not at all what happened. And so sure enough, we had to get very creative with our marketing strategy. And even to the point where we'd work with our various community partners to say, what business exists in your community that we wouldn't even know to look at because they were simply not online?
Yeah, exactly. How do you find them when they aren't online as well?
Yeah.
Right? So
it's a bit of it was a fun kind of conundrum at the beginning, because it's like, okay, well, this is a program for us to help businesses who don't have a digital platform. Because of the pandemic, we can only reach them through a digital capacity. So it was a bit of so working with our community partners, like the business improvement areas, was a huge strategic component for us. And as of today, we have put through 680 businesses through the program. It actually wraps up, phase one wraps up by the end of the month, and we will be set to be 715 businesses.
Wow,
We've gone through
that's a
the program.
lot of businesses over 11 months.
That's right. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And I think this is just the beginning for that program in particular.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about what your students would typically be doing for them. I know you said like for some of them, it's just getting them on Google, so Google My Business set up. But others, I'd imagine they might have been a little bit farther along. Can you give me a better snapshot of all the things that you could do for a business?
We had a list of what we were calling like our digital triage kit. So it was like, as we saw it, and with some help from Digital Main Street, what was the most important thing that a business needed to have, to not what's least important by no means, but what are those luxuries that we were able to help businesses with? Because like you said, some businesses were on various areas of the spectrum as to how they had their digital business set up. So like you said, we would do Google My Business. We would do social media, we would do website creation, we would do an e-commerce platform. We did only have a certain amount of hours set, and taking into consideration the various components. So whether some businesses would just say, I need a new brand, like I need a logo. And so we would spend our time doing that. So like I said, we'd have that assessment, we'd have that conversation with the business. And then between that conversation, the student would work out a little bit of a game plan, make sure the business owner was okay with that game plan. And then the role of the student was to implement that game plan. Ideally, the business owner would come along for that journey to learn. So that way, we're not just, what's the phrase? We're taking the horse to water. So that way the business, could continue their digital journey. Because there was no way in this set amount of time that we would do everything that we could do under the sun. And so we saw many different types of businesses apply to be part of our program. Some businesses had a really sophisticated, and this is something that Jessica and I are working with right now. Some businesses were pretty far along their digital, I'll call it their digital journey. And so we had to get, again, a little bit more creative as to how can we add value to their business? Because ultimately that's what we're set out to do. And I think the thesis of all of these conversations that digital just isn't an option anymore. So get on board and let us help.
So pretty much it's open to anything that you guys can do to support that business, regardless of where that business is at in that journey. And so that's really exciting. So you could be helping them with some branding work if they needed that. You could be helping them with even some SEO, I'd imagine, maybe some content creation too.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think what we were really wanting to make sure the business student was doing was actually doing an implementation for the business. Some businesses we would create, like you said, a social media marketing strategy, where we would put it like in a calendar template, and we would say, post this on this date and things like that. And for the most part, the assessments and the game plans were quite seamless. I was anticipating a little bit more of maybe some pushback from the business owner saying, no, I want this sort of platform, or I want my time spent on this. And we would say, no, your Google, my business isn't owned. But for the most part, I would say 98% of the conversations we had, it was a direct alignment and a really good game plan for the actual execution.
Sounds fantastic. I mean, this is just such a great program, because not only are these businesses getting some incredible support, but they're also, like, the students are getting some life experience working with these businesses, consulting with them. And so as they're going through the programs, they're able to actually leverage and put into practice the things that they're learning. And like you said, some of them, I mean, they're just at the right age in terms of they've grown up with digital, and so it's pretty natural for a lot of them anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm always blown away by the I guess I'll say the solutions they've been coming up with. Like for an example, there was one business owner, and this was at the very beginning of the pandemic, and she was selling masks. And so she said, oh, well, I think I would like an e-commerce site. And we're like, that makes sense. And then upon further inspection, we realized that most of her demographic actually wasn't even local. So a website would make sense, but for a quick turnaround, we actually ended up setting up an Etsy store. Which again, I was like, I know of Etsy, I shop on Etsy, but for some reason it wasn't in my brain at that time. And the student didn't miss a beat. She's like, given like the time and the money and the experience, like I think an Etsy store is actually a better fit for you. And of course it was. And again, there's been lots of little examples like that where they are just, I think they're also, they're effective, but they're also very efficient.
Hmm.
Like, it blows my mind at how fast they can get something set up. And I think when we look at some of the experiences that we're hearing back from the business owners, I think that's something that they're excited about is this was really quick. This was a fast turnaround to make a big difference for my business.
Which was so critical because we had to pivot so quickly as businesses when the pandemic hit, and then there just wasn't the time to have big, long, drawn out research and strategy plans developed and so on. It's like, what's going to move the needle immediately? Let's jump in and do that. And so I love that efficiency. So why don't we bring in Jessica? Jessica, now with the Leduc, Nisku, Wetaskiwin Regional Chamber, you started to partner then with Heather over at the University School of Retailing with a program that's very similar. Now, I think you guys are calling it Get Digital, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are. So Get Digital, or Getting Businesses Digital, for our region was something that was on our minds since the pandemic. We could say it a million. It was something that was on the back burner for these small businesses for the last few years and counting. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, we need to do something. Like, this is the priority now, but where to begin, where to start? And us as the chamber, representing such a diverse region, such a diverse group of businesses. And like we said too, everyone's different on the spectrum. So they might have their Google profile, they might not. They might be on Facebook, they might not. They might have e-commerce, they might not. So connecting all of those pieces was something we knew we needed to do. But the solution was not quite clear, because these businesses obviously are going through something no one expected, planned for financially. And so, paying a large agency, paying for these professional services is costly. So here we were with this huge problem and, not a lot of great solutions until Heather. We knew Heather through other worlds and channels, and we heard about her program and thought, okay, but it's just for Edmonton. Story of our lives in our region. It's just for the big city. It's just for Edmonton. But there's always a way. And so we talked with Heather and figured out a way to bring it to our region, talk to our municipalities, and they were so on board and so game to provide funding for our businesses to offer the program to our businesses, to our region. So it was just absolutely an amazing fit. I think Heather and I were laughing earlier about how quickly it happened because we knew each other. We kind of connected and said, can we do something here locally? It was within Heather, a week or two where we had.
A week or two. I was just going to say, I want to say it was a week, because when I was chatting with Jessica and Jennifer, I thought it would just be like a quick, like, okay, well, this is what it's about. Let's talk in the summer. And then it was really, I feel like, serendipitous in a way, because it's kind of like they had got to like the end of, okay, well, how do we solve for this problem? And then I was like, oh, hi, just pop in here and tell you what I think the solution could be. So yeah, it was really quick.
Yeah, we had an economic recovery task force group in the city of Leduc, so that that started right after the pandemic had hit. So we were having weekly meetings already with our city of Leduc, our mayor, our economic development officers, our local downtown business association, and a few others. So we were talking about what the businesses needed. This was already on our radar, as I said. So when we were able to talk to Heather, we brought it right away to our task force committee, and they greenlighted it right away. And so, yeah, it was amazing how quickly it happened. It was amazing how quickly we could get it out to the businesses. And then the businesses signed up and took us up on it quite quickly. That was back in June. And we have a goal to help 100 businesses by the end of September.
Okay, so when we're talking about June, that was June 2021
Yep.
to September, then 2021.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100 days-ish.
Yeah. And 100 to help 100, is that what you said?
I didn't even think about that, but that's kind of exactly what it's looking like. It might be 100 and 100. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so and it's progressing well. The uptake in the community around the region then has been really great, Jessica.
Yeah, it's going great. So like I said, we started with the City of Leduc businesses. Since then, we got Wetaskiwin, the City of Wetaskiwin on board with some funding for some of their businesses, as well as Calmar and now Beaumont. So like I said, very regional, very large area, very diverse group of businesses, but they're all benefiting in their own way and, seeing the results, and so happy with this program, what was offered to them, what was able to give them that leg up in such a short amount of time.
And so when you are, spreading the information within the community about this program, is there any qualifiers there in terms of the businesses or do you accept any business into the program?
So the municipalities with their funding asked for business license proof. That was the qualifier. Yeah. So just a business license in that community and you're in.
Okay, awesome. Is it the same thing, Heather, in Edmonton, or was there further restrictions at all?
Yeah, there was, for the most part, it was business license as well, or proof of business where you're paying your taxes.
Yeah.
For some of the entrepreneurs within a business. So sometimes we had people that worked for a business, but they weren't the actual owner, but they still contribute. So it was a bit of a convoluted system, which is interesting because we went back and forth in this conversation in a whole bunch of different directions, because we want to make sure that it is taxpayer money at the end of the day, even though it's some with the City of Edmonton, it was a grant, but regardless, the money is coming from the taxpayers. So we want to make sure that this program is going to what the money kind of set out to do. That being said, if we have too many qualifiers, it gets very complicated very quickly. And an interesting thing that we noticed with the Making Edmonton Digital program, we have had a significant amount of businesses reach out to us that are not technically in the Edmonton zone. So a lot of them are actually from the City of Leduc. So it actually worked out well. And this was kind of proof in the pudding, because like I said, when we launched the Making Edmonton Digital, I was expecting this large lineup and we didn't have it. When we launched Get Digital, we did have a large lineup, and a lot of it was because businesses had already applied to Making Edmonton Digital and they weren't accepted. Yeah. So this was a really nice funnel, and we're seeing this in the capital region in general. And there are some conversations and some strategies as to how we can work with those businesses coming up. But I think that was just telling of the reach that the program had. It was also quite telling of the relationship that I think Jessica and Jennifer and their team at the chamber have with their region. And so it was, if it came directly from the municipality, I feel like there would have been another leg similar to what we saw with the City of Edmonton. And that's not right or wrong. It's just the nature of the relationship that needs to take place for this kind of program to be successful. And so when Jessica and Jennifer say, hey, this program exists, there's a lot of trust that's established. And so I think that was another reason why in this particular instance, we did have a lot of businesses sign up that we were like, whoa, like, okay, we got to get some more students on this team. So it was a different shift, but welcomed one for sure.
Well, and that's an interesting point that you just brought up in terms of capacity. So for the School of Retailing, especially through the summer months as well, I'd imagine, maybe it's easier to get students working on the projects through the summer months. And then once school starts, maybe it's more difficult. I'm not sure, but you have a certain amount of capacity, I would imagine. So that must be a bit of a limiting factor for deploying this more broadly. Would I be correct in that?
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. And that is something that I personally struggle with, because I want this to be like my own business and just move as fast as I want. But we're working within the university setting, and we are working with students. And one of the main foundations of the School of Retailing is to just enhance the student experience. And something I'm really passionate about is giving the tools necessary for students, so when they leave their academic career, they're set up to not only be useful and have great jobs in the I'll say the real world. I don't know, maybe like postgraduate world, but also I want them to understand what options they have available to them. And I think that's something that's fun that our center does, and this program in particular. To your point about capacity in the summer, it's a lot easier. I did a very large hiring. Like I said, the plan with Jessica and her team worked really well, because it was still while school wasn't kind of happening while we were talking this through. So I could do a large hiring blitz knowing that this project was going to take place in the summer. And then the students can work full-time hours. You're right. As we head into the fall, their priority is their education, as it should be, and that's something that I'm really committed to. But then, yeah, we do have a bit of a I'll say a higher level of kind of me being in the weeds as to make sure that students are handling the workload appropriately, and that they are committing to what is feasible for them. Because it's not really the okay, well, I can't do this conversation. It's usually the, oh my God, yeah, I want to do it because it's all exciting and I want to be a part of it. Oh, but I have this midterm and I'm on that committee and I'm TAing. And so there's a whole bunch of competing priorities for our students. But that being said, we are running a business. And the consulting group for the School of Retailing has been around for about 10 years. So this is something that we have experience with in the world of capacity. But I will say these experiences are so exciting for all of us. But we are trying really hard to make sure we are what is the saying? We are over delivering and under promising.
Sounds great. Yeah. And so Jessica, this means September, everything wraps up then with your program then getting digital, or is it going to continue on after this?
So that's when we wrap up our first phase, our 100 businesses, as we said, but we hope to continue the program, further on. I'll let Heather speak to how she's transitioning the program.
Sure.
So I guess we at the University of Alberta are able to provide this service to different municipalities, really anywhere. But the Business Link group has actually just put out some funding that a business can actually go directly to Business Link and get this digital support directly themselves. Or a municipality can go directly to the application and apply for funding. So an initiative that the university is working on is a regional application for the Business Link funding, and then we would manage the regional kind of get digital momentum for the next 18 months. So every region would be eligible to apply for some help from some students. So we're just going through that application, seeing what municipalities and communities would be interested in being part of that regional application. So now we're back into this hurry up and wait sort of phase, which I feel like is the world of government grants these days. So if a business is interested, or if you are a community leader, I think it makes complete sense to reach out to me and I can help align the dots, because this funding is available. And I think that's the most important part for us to look at, is that governments have been saying since the beginning of the pandemic, support will be there for small businesses, support will be there for economic recovery. And that's what this support looks like. This is in the details. This is one of the results when the people are saying the support is there. And so we would like to make ourselves available, like you said, Lance, within our capacity, to make sure that we are deploying our students to make a real difference to people's bank accounts at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, and it's just such a great program on all fronts. And, I applaud you guys both for taking the initiatives to really deliver it within our community here and see this grow into something that's going to be more regional and larger and broader in scope. And so that's really exciting for all these small businesses out there who are really still struggling with this idea or this need to shift into that digital landscape. And for those who've maybe taken a step in there, they might still need some additional support to, fully, develop out that website. Maybe they have an Etsy store and they now want to transition to the e-commerce store, or they're trying to get their head wrapped around how to improve their social media or the SEO or whatever. And so there's so many things that a business needs to think about in terms of a marketing perspective, that it doesn't really matter what stage those businesses are at. This program is going to give them some form of help and assistance in taking them to the next level. And so just speaking of that thinking about that next level, Jessica, can you share with us some of the results maybe that some of your members, some of the businesses in the Leduc regional area there, what their experience has been with this program so far to date?
Yeah, I'll say something that I've been thinking of too, and hearing from the businesses is this has been an opportunity for them to work directly with students, whereas maybe they hadn't thought of that as an option for themselves, or that could be effective. And like Heather said, they're having these students that are coming up with out of the box ideas and great efficiencies. And there are so many other student programs that we've been trying to share with our members during this time of, economic recovery and labor market struggles, where they can take advantage of a work placement or a co-op program outside of even this program, where they can get students to work in and on their business for them. So this has been a really great win in that regard, because they've loved that experience with the students and with their perspectives. So that's been huge, as well as the more tangible benefits, as far as digital marketing can grant you. So getting that presence and seeing those analytics, seeing the results from a Google campaign or a Facebook campaign, has had them just over the moon, and so having that, we all know about the credibility that an online presence creates, and they knew they needed it, but now they're actually living it and seeing it and connecting with their customers online. So yeah, the feedback has been awesome in terms of running some of those campaigns and connecting with their consumers and getting a handle on their online presence. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so our audience for Amplify Your Business, this series is a bunch of entrepreneurs and small businesses for the most part. So how are they going to best reach out to you, Heather? And then we'll ask the same question of you, Jessica.
The best way to reach out to me is you can either email me, it's heather.thompson, and Thompson, THOMSON, at ualberta.ca, or retail at ualberta.ca. There's also, so the landing page for the Making Edmonton Digital program is just makingedmontondigital.com. Okay. We have moved to waitlist because, like I said, we did reach capacity for that program. So we're still waiting for news about phase 2. And at this point, I would be very curious to, if a business is interested in this program, please reach out to me, because this isn't a matter of if we get additional funding to move forward, it's just when. So that's definitely something that I'm happy to facilitate that conversation and set up next steps. So I think email is probably the easiest way to reach out to me.
Yeah, and get on that waiting list as soon as you can, obviously, because you're going to be the first in line, so to speak. Yeah, otherwise it could be a while before you get some support potentially.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay, Jessica, how about you?
Yeah, like Heather said, sign up. And if you are a business in our region, you can sign up at gettingbusinessdigital.ca, and we're not going to let you fall off the wait list, like she said. So you can also check out our chamber at yourchamber.ca, or email us at info@yourchamber.ca.
Great. Okay, so for everybody who's listening to this or watching this episode, and you want to take your business to that next level in digital, there's so many resources out there that you can access, and this is one of the great examples of what has been coming out of the pandemic, where some of those federal and provincial and municipal dollars are getting spent, right? And so take advantage of this opportunity. There's sure there's students, but there's students that come at this with some knowledge, some education, but also some really interesting perspectives that are going to help you in your business. And so it's going to be a great experience for everybody. I certainly hope that you take advantage of that. So thank you so much, Heather. Thank you so much, Jessica, for taking the time today and then doing your part in helping small businesses across our greater Edmonton and area regional district here.
Thank you for having me. Thanks,
Lance. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Okay. And so for anybody who's interested in past episodes of Amplify Your Business, you can head over to amplifyyourbusiness.ca, and that'll take you to our archives. And if you are a small business who wants to be profiled, wants to get a little exposure, reach out to us via the form on that site, and we will reach out to you and connect and maybe queue something up in the future. So everybody stay safe, and we'll see you in the next episode.